Okay, it's Tuesday, September 13th. This is a SPY recap end of the day video. Again, I don't think I have to overstate what a negative day it was. Big red day down, and that's after gapping down from the close yesterday. So it kind of wipes out everything that was developing here. We'll look at the different time frames, see where things may be heading next with high probability. Again, this was based on a bad inflation number before the market opened, but to me, there were also signs that this type of thing, maybe not in one day, but overall might be developing in terms of reversing right at this area. I actually shot a video of, a couple of days ago, I guess, showing how this, and I had this circle in there showing how this was a potential resistance area. And again, that goes back to the monthly chart showing how we were coming up right to the midpoint of that prior month. There was also a big gap, once we were hitting targets here on the upside, I showed there was a big red bar. It was going to be hard to get up there. If things were going to turn around, it would likely be in this area. So I was certainly looking for some kind of pullback. A, just because it was a little exhausted on the upside. B, because I thought if we're going to continue higher, the best trades to get long again would be after a pullback. But then you get this type of price action, which again is really not surprising at all. Once we gap down that big, what was going to happen next? If we would have just started out here and started lower, in an orderly fashion, then we would have had to take some time to reverse this green trend. But obviously the big gap down, it happened pretty quickly. And again, what I was looking for at the open, this was the overnight range, the blue lines here, high to low. And then I was going to see if this was one potential area, midpoint of the prior week, when it opened right here, where it could have bounced right here at this blue line. If it was going to, I really didn't expect it to, but it is a certain level. And clearly you could see after 2 bars, pause. So we did try to pause there. Some people might have bought it. I heard Kramer come out this morning, and he didn't want to believe that this was anything too negative, and he was saying bye. But anyway, in terms of then immediate, 15-minute price action that I always look for, we started lower here on bar number 2, and that was it. Boom. We broke a key level. That's sort of a chain reaction, not only to head down to this first target on the daily chart, once we were below this low right here. Then it also showed that the week, once we got below that line, the week then was a 2-up failure week, starting up higher above the high the previous week, crossing the midpoint. That then, we still have time to get to the bottom of that chart. And then I showed you how once we get down there, look at this monthly chart now. You can look at the previous videos and show how that was potentially getting ready to be a failure on the upside and big green right at the midway point. But now look what it looks like. If you would tune into this chart today, you would say, oh, look at this, a shooter bar here. We just kind of bounced around a little bit early in the month, and now we're continuing lower, right as you would think a month like this in August would lead to a September that should head down to the bottom of that range. And it looks like we're doing that at the moment until things change. So you really have to look at these multiple time frames, develop your expectations, and then just let price action guide you. I mean, that's all I could say in terms of going day by day and trying to have a good idea about what's developing. And so anyone to me who would buy this open just for whatever reason, look, maybe in the long run something holds in here and it heads up, and you got to wait a few months and it'll all be great if you bought here. But for now, there's a lot of targets below, and until something changes to the upside, I don't see any reason to be looking to buying at all. Even if tomorrow, we get a big gap up and we come up, then I'll change my whole mind. But until that happens, that's my whole point. I wouldn't do anything. So obviously today, just looking at it, if you look at the classic, type of directional day, 1 push down, pause, 2 pushes down, and we got right to that monthly line here, which is about to turn the monthly chart red. So all the continuity is downside. We still have targets to go below, so we're going to continue to look lower. Now, things can get crazy. There was a definite downward bias here back whatever it was in the middle of August, and it was this 2 down bar that was forming. And if you look at it in hindsight, and I remember making a video, like, hey, this looks like a very clear bar. You had the shooter bar, you came down and you took out that low. But in terms of the week, it was only the first day down that went lower. This day tried to go lower, couldn't. This day tried to go lower, couldn't. This day went up, and it was only a big move on Friday, which made this whole weekly bar look red. So, you never know what's going to happen day to day. After a big day, sometimes you get a little bit of a pause. Sometimes you get, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised to get immediate continuation to these targets, but you're just going to have to, that's why you you watch this opening price action. That's kind of the way I tend to figure out what's trying to develop for the day. So we'll see tomorrow, what the range is overnight and kind of what the highs and lows are and how price opens to lead us there. Finally, I guess, I just figured once you see a potential move like this where the trend really starts to turn back to the downside again. Now your expectations on the monthly chart are to head down here. In the weekly chart, we still have a target lower. We still have 3 days to go to reach that, which should plenty of time to reach that target to the downside. I wanted to even look at, sometimes I haven't looked at a while, at the quarterly charts and the yearly chart. Quarterly chart, which is a little more of a big picture. You can see here after big red bar, you kind of expect a little follow through lower, and that would be January, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So, you would have expected by the end of September a little bit of follow through to the downside. What you're getting here is just an inside bar on the quarterly chart. So to me, anytime I see an inside bar, that's trading range kind of action, where when you go up, you generally sell, and you come down, you can meet some buying. And then you see after this quarter ends in September, if we hold inside, do we break to the upside or we break to the downside? If we break to the downside and fail, then it would be the next quarter or into the beginning of 2023 where you might get a buy signal. And then finally, just looking even at the yearly chart, I know I'm getting just into way, bigger picture stuff here, but, we had an outside year to the downside, and it already reached its target. We failed to the upside early in the year. We reached our target. Who's to say that we can't come down for another year and who knows what else before we turn up? I mean, if you look back to the markets that really, form a little bit of a top for an extended period of time. I mean, you can go down for 2 years here before, and then you get an inside bar, and then you finally headed up. So on a yearly chart, once you headed down here in 2000, it took 4 years before you really felt comfortable getting long. On this chart here, you went down, I could see here for I'd have to look at it, a half a year. I don't go back much further. So there hasn't been many examples. Normally you get 1 year pullback. These are just pauses. But who's to say that, into next year we can't head lower a little bit and target down here? And this could be a few years of heading down before you really get a buy signal to the upside. And again, I'm not predicting it or anything else. But at this point, in terms of as we come down to the end of the year, if we don't get this bar getting very neutral by the end of the year, who's to say this can't be a much longer term kind of a pullback? There's certainly room. If you just look at a typical chart, I mean, we've gone up for so long. Why can't you pull back into here for a few years? And that's going to be devastating, I mean, in terms of the stock market. But, just keep that in mind. I mean, there's still... we went up for so many years in a row as well. So that was unprecedented. You can even see here, once you go up for so long, there can be periods of time where you get for many, this is like 10 years worth of consolidation before you really start it up again. So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen, but if you really zoom it out, none of this is surprising that you can get a much deeper pullback if it wants to happen. But we're just going to continue to go with the quarterly charts. Again, that would be the next one to look at. Depending what happens here by the end of September, then we're going to see, if we get an inside bar and head down, there's going to be a lot of targets here to be taken out unless it just fails in a given 3-month period and starts back up. That would be the first sign that this yearly chart may not be, going down for years at a time. But that's going to take a while to form, and even if we stay inside, we're going to have to, get a 2-up quarterly thing in October, November, December, somewhere above the high of this before you can feel comfortable that we're heading back to the high. So, there's a lot of big picture stuff that you still want to keep in mind, but as you kind of wind down to the monthly chart, all I could say now is, right now that was the point where it should have stopped. If it was going to stop to the upside, it looks like it has, and now you just got to play the downside until something changes. So we'll see how things open tomorrow. Again, the big thing for today, after this gap down and after watching the open, the way it developed here right near the high of the day in the first couple of bars heading below that lower blue line, you just had to be short all day in all kinds of ways. So, once you watch the price action here, it's just classic the way I do it in terms of one push down, pause, second push down. How far these pushes go, you never know. but a lot of times you can judge that based on targets. And given that our next target was here on the daily chart, once you opened up here near the blue line, it's not surprising that the second push down took it to its target. And so we'll go from there. So obviously not a pleasant day, for people who own stocks and everything else. But in terms of trading, you can't ask for anything better in terms of where price action was telling you price was going to go, and then having the volatility, which is all you really want as a trader. So we'll see where it goes tomorrow. But for now, you got to just have your bias to the downside, and we'll as if anything starts to change to the upside, I'll certainly point out what needs to happen. For now, let's just call the midpoint of this bar as kind of an area where until we even start to approach that, then just all these targets down here are in play, and then of course a lot of bigger picture targets below that possibly. So let's just see what happens, but there should be some good opportunities to continue on the downside for the rest of the week.